And welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our interview marathon. We're continuing our festival. You are all welcome here. And for newcomers, hello. My name is Ivan Suprun. I'm a co founder of Dice and Bones. And here in this virtual studio right now with me is Alla Kostovska, who is a representative from. The from Geekach. And what is Geekach and what he's doing, we will talk about right now. Now, Ala, could you please tell us what you do? What is your occupation, and what is it?
Okay, hello everyone. It's great to be here, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk with all of you. I am managing editor in Geekach. Geekach was firstly the shop, online shop, which sell board games, comics, and so on. And later, I think it was 2020, we started to publish board games. We were one from, I think, three or four biggest board game publishers in Ukraine. And now we maybe I would like to believe that now we're biggest board game publisher in Ukraine. In Geekach, I manage all projects. So all board games and all TTRPG games go through my hands, go through me, and I try to care of all of them and try to deliver best quality as we could.
That's great. That's great. And you say 2020 you started, right?
Yes, Geekach
Uh-huh.
was as publishing house,
Hmm.
board game publishing house, I think established in 2020, and
Right.
I work in Geekach from 2021, so it's
Mm.
my
So
third year.
how did the full scale invasion actually affected the business and your work?
Uh, it's a complicated question because Geekach was located and will be located, I believe, in Melitopol. And now Melitopol is a city on eastern Ukraine and under Russian occupation now. So all our warehouses and our offices were in Melitopol, but after full-scale invasion, mm, people managed to leave the city and go to Ukraine Western, and now the office of Hikach located in Ternopil. It's kind of central Western Ukraine, and it was tough, but we managed to renew our work, and I think it was early summer of 2022 when we started to work again after the full scale invasion.
Right. Well, that's great. We'll get back to that in a minute. But first, let us begin with the first question. Actual question. What was your first experience in TTRPG or tabletop games in general? Not like chess or simple card game, but actual gaming.
Clarify for
Yeah.
me what means tabletop games. Uh, I have a very long story with tabletop games. I counted that last year was my 10 years anniversary when I
Wow.
as I play tabletop games, but I have a little bit shorter story with TTRPG. So I think it's maybe 5 years. So 5 years ago, I first was my first TTRPG game, and it was a game in Savage World system. Then I played in Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, I think everybody goes through Dungeons and Dragons.
It's
Also,
like a
I tried.
period, like a
Yeah.
stage of life, you know,
Yes.
like a
I
teenage
think,
stage. Yeah.
but I still have the stage sometimes. Also, I tried 10 Candles. We have few campaigns in Slayers and Blades in the Dark. And we in Geekach working with Call of Cthulhu. I never played Call of Cthulhu yet, but I'll wait for release of Ukrainian translation, and I will play also Call of Cthulhu.
Well, that's just amazing. A lot of games, I see. You've had a lot of experience, and did it in any way affected your work or your decision where would you like to work? How did that happen?
Uh, how I started work with board games or with
Yeah, yeah,
TTRPGs?
with board games and
In
TTRPG
general,
and translation. What did you now write? Your journey.
I was editor a
Hmm.
long time. I worked in traditional book publishing industry. I worked in book publishing, and then where our board game market started to grow. I have friends who work in, who kind of start to this new trend, and they asked me to help because they knew that I am gamer and I understand how this system works. Because it's, to be honest, very hard to find translators and editors and proofreaders who not just knew
Yeah,
the language, but they just understand the system, how it's work, how
yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yes. So it was for me a very short, I think, way, and I like to like the decision because my hobby became my work. So it's always nice.
It's perfect. It's like everything you ever wanted. Yeah. That's great. Now, tell me, please. Uh, right now, I can Google up Geekach and other publishers, and I can purchase translated in Ukrainian language most of board games, most of the most popular board games, at least, and some TTRPGs as well. Uh, why it wasn't the case earlier? Was it no demand or anything else? What was the reason behind it?
I have long answer or short answer.
Let's go with the
What?
long one, actually, because
Okay.
I think it's a very interesting thing. Because you know, for the last year, year or so, Ukrainian language and the question of translating everything, it became very eminent and very um, undeniable by the society of Ukraine and as well with many companies all around the globe. I can see even big corporations, they acknowledge Ukrainians as another market, a separate market from Russians, and it is a beautiful thing. But it is interesting what was before that and why, what was the case. What is your perspective?
Okay, so it will be a little bit long, but I'll try to short it
All
as
right,
much as
all
possible.
right.
So, as I told you, I worked for a long time in book publishing industry, and now when I work in board game publishing, I find a lot of similarities with we share a lot of common problems, and interestingly enough, that our biggest common problem is domination of Russian products. Like we have domination of Russian books for like 10 years in Ukrainian book market, and we have more than 10 years of domination of Russian board games and Russian TTRPG games. So this goes in like these problems realized in two ways. So first of them is licensing. Like for example, for Russian publishers, it was common practice um, buy rights not only for Russia, for Russian language and for Russia territory, but also for some neighborhood countries with, as they think, weak cultural markets. So, for example, they can buy rights for Ukrainian language and Ukrainian territory, Belarus language and territory, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and so on. So they just buy license for big territory, and Ukrainian publishers, book publishers or board game publishers can't buy this right. So like we have
They
Ukrainian
can
company
compete even. I think it's
now,
just
rights already sold, so they have agreement, rights agreement contract, and even if someone wants to buy impossible. So this is for first like thing. The second, also licensing offices, because a lot of it's mostly about book market, but I think for a board game market it's also actual. So big rights licensing companies have smaller offices in different countries. So kind of middleman office. So one of these middlemen, few of these middleman offices was in Russia. So for example, if you wrote for rights manager and you want to buy rights for some book or for some board game, and it isn't sold for Russia yet, then they can say go to the Russian office and buy these rights through Russian office. So use this office like middleman, and it was really hard. like it, it was really hard, and after 2014 it was much harder because we don't want to cooperate with Russia is any possible
Absolutely.
way. Yeah, so this kind of first thing. And secondly, it's a dominance of Russian products in the market at all. So like, for example, books, for I think until 2014, it was much easier to find book in Russian language because they were cheaper, because they printed in much larger print runs, and the cost of one copy depends of the total print run, and also they were more diverse, and it's just a whole a lot of books. So after Revolution of Dignity and when the war with Russia started in 2014, this situation changed for books because Ukrainian government forbid like import of Russian books into Ukraine was forbidden. So it wasn't legal to bring Russian books to Ukrainian market and sell them. And it starts from this moment, Ukrainian book market starts grow up more and more and more because we haven't these books on our bookshelves, on bookshops, and so on. And
there
from
was
this
a
time,
demand, actually.
yes, and demand was really big because a lot of book publishers was created after that, and even last year, which was really tough for everyone, we have new book publishers, we have a lot of translated titles, we have top titles, and so on. And for board game publishing, it's kind of similar, but it started a little bit later because like book publishing industry worked from 90s, I think, and the board game hobby is comparatively new in Ukraine. So until I think 2019, only few titles had been translated into Ukrainian, and mostly it's kind of family games or party games, Dixit type or Munchkin type or so on. So potential publishers were afraid to localize board games because it was very risky. You don't know if you sell this like print run. Do you sell 100 of copies of kind of Euro game or no? And Russian board games were everywhere. We have like Russian publishers, kind of Hobby World or so on. They sell their games in Ukrainian shops. They have their offices in Ukraine. So we have market full of Russian board games. And in 2019, Ukrainian publisher Kilo Games published a big board game, Terraforming Mars, in Ukrainian, like in Ukrainian language. And it was very risky because it's complicated game. It's not a game for beginners or for family. It's kind of hard, dry Euro. And so this game has smaller audience than typical funny board games. And because a lot of Russian version of this game already existed and already was in market, so maybe some geeks already bought these copies of this game for themselves. And the game was published in 2019, and a whole print run was sold in a year. And it was a huge success. I think that case indicated that Ukrainian communities and Ukrainian geeks, they want board games in Ukrainian, that we have demand. And after that, new board games started to they started to translate new games. And if I'm not, I think I'm correct. In 2020, it was kind of around 15 translated board games. In 2021, it was already 50, and in last year was more than 100. Like more than 100 new titles, new board
New
game titles per year. Yes,
additionally.
yes,
So it's
yes.
like more
Yeah,
than
it's new titles. It's not
200
reprints.
right
Yes,
now.
it's
Wow.
yeah, we have more than 200. Yes, and it's kind of huge success. But it seems like everything fine, but not yet because large Russian publishers still buying rights for Ukraine. So, for example, Ukrainian publisher tried to get rights for some nice game like Everdell or Nemesis or so on, rights to a rights holder, and they told us that rights are already sold and Russia had these rights. So we have the same problem what book publishers had earlier, and now we have in book publishing industry. So until full-scale invasion, a lot of board games was uh, blocked by Russian publishers, and it was a big
That just
problem.
sounds crazy, you know. Okay, you have your independence, you have your country. Yes, you are fighting for your country and for your freedom. Of course, you have freedom of mind. You can do whatever you want, sure. But translating a board game, no, no, big no,
Right.
no. Because
Yes, and
someone from Russia who invaded your country, who killed your people, well, they bought out the rights. Hey, nice.
yeah,
That sounds like just stupid. I
madness.
think
Yes,
it's
I don't
madness.
know how what. I think it's because of money, obviously, but I
Obviously, yeah.
don't know what they think like in general. So after this, there was a big scandal when few board publishers tried to buy rights and can't because they was sold to Russia, and Ukrainian board game community. Kind of wrote few petitions. They go to the board game geek and wrote on forums that what the fuck is this. And after that, these few Russian publishing houses uh, started to translate their games into Ukrainian and publish it into Ukrainian because they won't keep Ukrainian market. They understand that we have demand on Ukrainian language board games, so they will translate game, but they translate not from English but from Russian. So they take Russian board game, translate from Russian into Ukrainian. Not it wasn't high quality translation. I think you can imagine how bad it was. So they tried to publish Nemesis
Oh my god.
in Ukrainian, and it was a big fail. And it was, I think, it was in 2021, in late 2021. So it just shows how strong they want to keep Ukrainian market, even
Absolutely.
if they try to translate into Ukrainian, because like they have Russian Hobby World company and they have Hobby World in Ukraine, registered in Ukraine by this company had Russian owners. So it's
But both of them, both hobby worlds, are Russian, linked to Russia,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
All right.
And if you, for example, if you will buy this old version Nemesis in Ukrainian translated but Hobby World, money go to Russia. So you just contribute to Russian economy if you buy this game. But after full-scale invasion, all Russian companies or companies with at least one Russian owner and some Russian capital left Ukraine. So it's kind of paradox because last year was very hard and very tough for everyone in Ukraine, but publishers it was good, like in economic field, because like I asked my chef and told me that Geekach shop, we have online shop which you can see. It sells all types of board games, not only our board games which we published. So he told me that in last year, total number of sold copies was smaller than in previous year, but total number of Ukrainian language board games was much higher because we have no Russian versions now. So even if market in general shrink, I don't know if I can say,
Yeah.
but Ukrainian publishers gain more income. They sell more Ukrainian localizations, and they can grow and can develop themselves. So last year was good for Ukrainian publishers in economic sense, and that's why we have so many games now, and that's why we start to work with TTRPG, because now we don't have all Russian products. We don't have this problem our market, and we can try, and we will see if we will have demand, if we will have enough gamers who will buy it. And I can also tell about TTRPG, because
Yeah,
we started.
it was actually
Yeah,
my question.
it's
Did
why
you
I'm here.
try to actually translate any of TTRPG? Because to be fair, it's very hard task, much harder than any simply tabletop game, even even as big as I don't know Nemesis mentioned before.
Yeah.
I think the TTRPG is really like it's a huge task. Did you ever tried to translate any of that, or it's on, or is it in plans?
Not me personally. I work as managing editor, so I kind of organize a whole team, and I work with translators and editors and layout
Sure,
designers and so on,
sure.
So now we have, I think, 5 projects, 5 different TTRPG systems. This is Savage Worlds, Call of Cthulhu, Cyberpunk Red, Witcher, and Questlings, which is a children TTRPG.
Hmm.
So first two systems, which are Savage Worlds and Call of Cthulhu, we already published quick starts. You can find it and download on our website. It's free, and you can also buy a paper copy if you want. And in, I think, in early summer, or like in summer, we release a core book adventure edition of Savage Worlds and starter set of Call of Cthulhu. So
Hmm.
first products will appear soon, and I think till the end of the year we will see how it goes, how many people buy it, and we will gain some feedbacks, and we'll see how it go later. But about Witcher, it's kind of interesting, because do you know, not interesting, but it's not surprise. Do you know why Witcher wasn't publishing, Witcher RPG,
Hmm.
TTRPG wasn't published, translated into Ukrainian, and wasn't published in Ukraine? How do you think?
Well, let me guess. Did Russians again bought the rights?
Yeah, yeah, Hobby World, right?
From who?
For
Let's just, from who?
from Polish company, because
From Polish company.
they bought like for Russia, and their rights also cover Ukraine. But now I may say that we really like to work with our Polish partners, and uh, almost most Polish partners they now don't work with Russia, so they
Hmm.
cancel their agreements, their contracts, and now it's available for us. So now we can publish Witcher. Now we can take other board games and other projects
And
from
what are
Russian.
these projects you are planning to translate? What should we expect next? Maybe you will dive into more of what you've already started to translate, like different modules for Call of Cthulhu, or will you try to translate any other systems as well?
We definitely will work with those systems which we already have, because after we announced that we will do Call of Cthulhu and Savage Worlds, we almost every week have messages when you publish this and when you publish this, and we know that we will publish everything, almost everything in Call of Cthulhu, because it's a really popular project and we believe in this. And we also kind of, Cthulhu is our patron. I don't know, because we have Mansions of Madness, we have Eldritch Horror, we have Arkham Horror third edition. So we have these three really big board games based on Cthulhu mythos, on Lovecraft stories. And so Call of Cthulhu is just like one more project in this theme, in this row. So we definitely will work with Call of Cthulhu more and more, and with Savage Worlds as well. So as I told you, we will release core book Adventure Edition this summer, and our translators, we work with Schlag Butraf. They are big community of translators who mostly work with video games. They localize video games Ukrainian, in Ukrainian language. So they translated for Savage Worlds, and I think they will translate Cyberpunk Friend, because they did Ukrainian adaptation of Cyberpunk video game. So we will publish Deadlands, Savage Worlds Deadlands, and we also are going to do some accessorize, kind of power cards, maybe a master screen, and so on.
Great.
And
Great.
also, yes.
Yeah. Sure. Continue.
And also, I want more because, like, I want to believe that it's my enthusiasm also works, that my chief to buy more and more role-playing games, because I'm only one team member who really play the games from a whole Geekach team. I think maybe not whole, because I don't know everyone at all, because we have like project employment, so I don't know every person. But from our editorial team, I'm kind of
so you oversee
TTRPG geek.
your representation of the community in that regard.
Yes.
Great, that's amazing. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so I have a question from our viewers. Have Geekach monitoring Ukrainian TTRPG communities for measuring demand, and will it be print on demand, such as tabletop games? And damn it, I wish to get Blades of the Dark translated and published. Okay, so
I also really want Blades in the Dark. really want. I'm not sure that Geekach will take it, but maybe another publisher. I don't know, because to be honest, I think that 3 more publishers interested in TTRPG. They, not all of them announced something, but I know that they bought rights, and we will have a new announcement soon, I hope. And it's a really great announcement. I kind of jealous a little bit.
That's actually good, I think. You have some competitors, and it means only that the market is healthy. That's all. It just gives everybody an additional motivation to move forward and make your work better. Talking about yeah, sure.
Print on that was about print on demand question. Can you repeat, please, because I forgot?
Yeah, will it be a print on demand, such as tabletop games? So, is like have Geekach monitored any of communities for measuring the demand, and will it be print on the demand? So if, for example, hundreds and hundreds of people ask you to please give us this translation, like translate I don't know, D&D 5e full rule books, all 50 books right now, I dare you, will it be done?
I think that if Wizards of the Coast will give us D&D, we will take it, but they don't want to give. Unfortunately. So I think that everyone ready to take D&D just because it's D&D, you know.
Sure.
I think that if there be a lot of people who will write that they want some system, it show demand, it show interest, and it will be enough to maybe not to buy rights, but to consider it, to talk about it with our
All right.
team, and to write, to ask about rights and so on. And for example, most of board games are printed in China. So we
Mm-hmm.
cooperate with different publishers, and like main publisher hold rights holder publishers. They told, okay, so in, for example, February, a whole world's board games, I don't know, site will publish in China. So whole teams go.
Mm-hmm.
Send their files and board game published, and then we wait when it come back to Ukraine through the sea. And it's now it's longer because we can't use Odessa.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now, as these containers with board games go to Europe, or for example to Gdansk or somewhere here, and then we get it from Poland side. And
All right.
TTRPG, it's kind of books, so we don't need uh, productions because we don't use some miniatures or so on. So we will publish whole TTRPG in Ukraine, in Ukrainian printing houses, and it's much faster. So I think it's
Sure.
to print one print run, it's kind of months of printing,
And
and
also
it's
shipping. You don't pay for shipping. You wouldn't
yeah
waste
it's also
fossil fuels to transport a huge amount of books from another part of the world, actually. So it's
yeah
actually
it's
only
nice
logical.
because it's faster. We can, even if everything will be great and print run will sold out fast, we can refill the stock.
All
And the
right.
second one, the price will be more approachable, more good for Ukrainian
Yeah,
gamers,
sure.
because for board games we have a recommended retail price, and this recommended retail price are in dollars or in euros, and this price is similar in different countries. We have only like small changes in price in different countries, maybe like €5, I don't know. But these games we will print here, and it's much easier because it will be cheaper, and it
Sure.
will allow us to deliver more.
All right. Thank you very much. I have another question for you from Mr. Uh, Tisbits. And the question is, was there any term or idea in a TTRPG that was difficult to translate? And additionally to that, I will add, what are the difficulties, the main difficulties in the translation and localization of the games? I think it's a very important topic, and you get that a lot. I can see from
Yes.
your expression right now.
Yeah, to be honest, terms are like establishing terminology, establishing
Yeah,
term systems. It's very complicated because we have the same problem, not the same, but we have Russian problem again,
yeah,
surprisingly, because most of Ukrainian gamers using Russian translations. Some of them using English or Polish, less, but it's mostly Russian translation. And when we released Savage Worlds, we have a lot of discussions about it, because we try to create new Ukrainian terminology. And I think Savage Worlds for me is a hardest project, because when we did this quick start of Call of Cthulhu later after Savage Worlds, and we have some terms from Savage Worlds, and also we have some terms from these board games, as I told, like Mansions of Madness, Eldritch Horror, and so on. So we have other sources where we can check and maybe take some words, some terminology. But when we started to work with Savage Worlds, it was completely new for us as publishing house, because we don't want to use the all same terminology as Russian, because not of them are good terms, like for my opinion. And for gamers, for some players, it's hard to switch from Russian terminology to Ukrainian terminology, and we have resistance sometimes, like small resistance. Is it good enough? Is it a good term? Maybe you should use this one term. So I think
Everyone is an
that
expert.
everyone is an expert, like as you know. So I think that first game, it's hard because like we first, this is a first TTRPG. This is first TTRPG. No, not first, because I know that already existed few translations like Dungeon World, but it wasn't public. It was kind of PDF on the internet. It wasn't published in and sold in bookstores and shops and so on. So Savage Wars will be first. And it was first when we released this quick start, so it was very hard. We have a lot of fights between, because as I told, Schlag Betraf team works on this translation, and there are a lot of people. I think more than 10 people have worked on this translation, and they have brainstorms. They look through a lot of words and try to find best word to translate some difficult terms, and we have a lot of fights and a lot of discussions about which way is better, which word we should take, this or that. And I can't say that I'm like all of our choices, but I think that it's a good place to start. So we decide something. If we gain feedbacks, a lot of feedbacks that maybe we choose not best option, we can change it, because like now we work with core book, and it's only editing of core book finished, and now we will work with design and so on. So book will be only in a few months.
All
So
right.
terminology is hard.
Yeah, terminology is hard, and another question here, adding to that previous one. What is your translation of word dice? I know that word because you know the channel I'm co-founder for is Dice and Bones,
Nice.
and that is actually. Uh, that is actually kistke, about kistka, and also the translation for a bone is kistka. So it's a funny thing because our channel translates like kistki and kistki. That's just a stupid joke we've established on way before we even thought about ourselves as content creators, but it stuck with us forevermore. Now, moving on to another question from Night Owl RP. Speaking of Blades of the Dark, do you know the licensing situation with the Evil Hat, Fate, Blades of Dark, Monster of the Week, etc.?
I just know that one publishing house interested in Blades in the Dark. It isn't a Geekach. It's a different publishing house, but I don't know how it goes. But maybe.
All right. All right. And another question here I got, what about using crowdfunding for buying rights for and publishing?
Crowdfunding for buying rights? I never think about it. It's quite a creative idea. I'm not sure, because maybe it will be better with board games, but with books, crowdfunding didn't work, because we have one publisher who work only as crowdfunder. It's Como Book. So they start crowdfunding, they gather some money, and then they start work with the books. But it's kind of half system. So they gather half of funds in crowdfunding and half of from like usual, just put their money. And we have pre-orders for most of our products. We always for big products we have pre-order, and we see how many people pre-order them. Our best pre-order was for Witcher board game, Witcher Old World. and we still wait when this game came to Ukraine. I'm really waiting for this because this already was one from few games which I also translated. I contributed to translation this game, and it's very
That's
exciting to me.
amazing.
Yes, main translator was Volodymyr Kuznetsov, and I translated few additional boxes. So that was our biggest pre-order level. I think that was more than 500 pre-orders, and it's kind of great for Ukraine. It's small in like world scale, but
Sure.
in Ukraine it's nice. And now we have also nice numbers for these Lovecraft games, as I told,
Yeah.
Eldritch Horror, Mansions of Madness, and uh,
Yeah,
Arkham Horror.
you just mentioned the scale, and
Yes.
it might not look like 500 copies is a huge number, but it's very important to understand the market and the difference of market, because when you have a lot of people, like millions of people or tens of millions of people, you also have uh, thousands of different publishers, literally thousands, and it is very hard for them to compete with each other. They have to, I don't know, well, they have to do the best they can, and we have like what, three publishers right now? You mentioned
No,
in
we have
Ukraine.
more.
Well, we have more, but three are the most competitive ones, and it's also a big difference because yeah, the demand of Ukrainian translation compared to the original, if it's in English, is uncomparable. Obviously, there are only so many Ukrainian language speaking people who want to buy the product compared to, well, the whole world that is that can speak and use English, and that's fine. Absolutely, I can't think of any uh, like small nation or medium sized nation in the world that can ever compete with such a giant in terms of globalization language. But it is very important for us, for Ukrainians, and I think you will agree with me as well as all of the watchers right now, all who watch, that it's very important to have your own, to have it translated in Ukrainian, to have to have the words, the words speak to you, localized with uh, terminology, like you said, yeah, with jokes localized, not just jokes that are understood in some other culture, but in your culture, some references maybe, and that's a huge part of translation and localization, because these are very different types of work. It's like voiceover and actually acting with your voice.
And I
Uh,
would like to add about localization and translation that in board game industry, uh, publishers often have kind of hear kind of jokes about why do you buy rights for a language independent game. Why, like, you just need to translate the box and like 2 pages of rules, and the whole components, game components, are language independent. We can buy English version, we can buy Polish version, we can like use Google Translate or to see some video rules, and it's
sure,
enough. But we need to have these language independent games in Ukrainian, even if it's only box or only rules, because if you will buy this box, you contribute to Ukrainian economy, not to Polish economy or to
sure.
English economy. So it's very, very, very
It's very
needed.
important to have your own. Yeah, it's very important to get these rights, these licenses, and the situation of it's with Russia and Russia buying all the rights. It's very disturbing right now, but I'm happy to hear that we are moving on, that we are in the right direction. I think that we will get a lot of support from English speaking community in this regard, and we will see Wizards of the Coast and all the others publishers, well, giving us the rights to do the work for them. Uh, Great. That is absolutely great. Do we have any other question? Let us see. Uh, okay, we have another question. How do Ukrainians find other like-minded TTRPG players? Are there hobby shops, or is it word of mouth, or what? That is a great question. Do you have anything to say with it?
I I'm not sure. Like I can talk only from my perspective and how I
Sure.
have.
Your perspective. How do you communicate with
Yeah,
people? How do you find a group to play an RPG or
I have
board
one
games?
group for last 5 years, and we even
Nice.
managed to play each week, every week. So I'm really
Wow.
appreciate this.
That is
Uh,
an achievement.
yes,
I should say
yes,
that is
and
great.
it's
That's just wow.
interesting. Then in this team we have three masters, game masters, and everyone
Get the hell
likes
out of here!
different
Come
things. So
on,
we can kind of switch.
three DMs.
But not me. I'm forever player. I'm on the player. But we have three DMs in one team, and we just switch places, and it's very nice. But like we always play in local club in Kiev. It's a Hex
Hmm.
board game club Hex, and
Hmm.
it's one of the places where you can find masters, and when you can find
Hmm.
place and
Hmm.
so on. So
And
you just
is it
go
like
to
hobby
this club
shop?
and ask, and
Yeah, is it like hobby shop,
yes,
and
yes.
you can purchase as
Yeah,
well,
you
purchase games?
can buy games, you can
Hmm.
purchase game, you can just sit and play, drink coffee, and so
Hmm.
on. And
Hmm.
I have a last session yesterday. We played, and in club was three party at one time, three TTRPG parties. So it kind of
Yeah,
shows it for me. It shows that it's important, and we have a lot of players. I can't count them because I don't know how many players in Kiev at all and in Ukraine at all. But if in one club in one evening, like around 15 players, so I think that we will find 1,000 players to sell one print run of the book
absolutely,
in whole
absolutely. I
Ukraine.
I agree 100% actually. And adding to that, I should say that we do have different ways of communication with each other. Our biggest community right now is located in a Telegram channel called Inrium, which is dedicated to the whole community of TTRPGs in Ukraine in general. It was launched in the beginning of 2022, and it's been a year already. I think a year. I think yeah. I think that's been a year, and it's pretty big, and the community is supportive and reminds me more of. English speaking community than Russian speaking community. Yeah, I've had this beautiful talk with my friend who is a painter, and she actually said this interesting thing about Ukrainian community and why it is so different from Russian community, because she used to post her early works in different chats, different groups, different forums, when forums was a thing actually. And so she got feedback, and the feedback from Russian speaking community. It was awful most of the time. It was very disturbing, and well, it was a hate speech. Actually, they hated her work. They were very they've been very criticizing her, and it made her feel, well, not very pleasant, let's just say. And on the other hand, Ukrainian community, as well as English speaking community, most of it, um, supported her. Yeah, they pointed out some ways to improve her work, but the general message they put is that you're great, you're doing great, you're on the right track, you're a beautiful artist, you know what to do with your hands, you have great talent, move on, improve, here are the ways you can improve. And that's the biggest difference, I think, in mindset, that we we appreciate the work of others, of other people. And I think that's why we are so much interested in legal translation, in licensing, and not just fan fictional translation up in the air, somewhat
Yeah.
somewhere, and something like that. Yeah, we it's not bad that fans trying to translate TTRPGs like Dungeons and Dragons right now. There are a lot of things that are happening all the time. People from different communities are trying to translate Dungeons and Dragons in Ukrainian, and but there is no licensing and it's not official yet. So
And also, it can be helpful. Like, for example, when we're working now with Savage Worlds and Call of Cthulhu, we use help of players who like
yeah,
just wrote us and who want to contribute, want to advise, want to help us to find the best way. And it's really nice because we understand that we are like a small community and we can't do ideal version of this, but with
sure.
help of people who already tried, who go through this way, who translated, who made this fan translation, we can go through it and find some nice decisions and implement it in our translation. So we kind of open for everyone who wants to help.
And that is a one big plus to our uniqueness of community, that is not too large so it becomes just rumbling and thunder of a thousand voices. No, it's like it's very dedicated community that wants things the way they want, and they are willing to help each other. And the way you're working, the way thing that Geekach is listening to their fans and listening to what they want to say, to what their response to your translations and localization is. The fact that you are listening and hearing and implying this to your work, that's just amazing. That amuses me, and I'm very grateful for your work, as well as I'm grateful for the time we've been talking right now. It was almost an hour now, and I think we are all out of questions. So, if there are no questions, no further questions, I want to wish Geekach and you personally, Allah, the greatest luck in the whole world. I want to wish both of us and all the world victory for Ukraine as soon as possible. And I want to everyone appreciate every single second of their lives, because, man, we have only one, and there is no resurrection spell. Okay, that turned out a little bit dark, but come on, dark times. So, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Allah, for all the answers and beautiful time. It was just so. I'm so lucky to be here and host this interviews. I'm getting so proud of my country, my people, and I'm really happy that we can share it with our colleagues and friends from abroad. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a big pleasure for me as well.
Okay, we will see you in just a minute with a next section, with the next interview. And if I'm not mistaken, you will be hearing about tabletop RPG and Foreign Legion, aka when role players take up real guns. So take up real guns really soon, and we'll meet you in a second. Bye bye.